So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our second birthday. Woo! Thank you to each and every one of you for turning up every month, for turning up and buying tickets every month so that we can continue, but also so that we can share this really important message and share this really important stage. Are you ready to hear some gorgeous, talented, amazing speakers? Yes. Are you ready to gather some life-changing knowledge? Good. And are you ready for some inspiration? Yes. Who's been here before? Show of hands, please. Great. Some old timers. Who's not been here before? Obviously, that's the rest of you. Great. Is anybody else celebrating this evening? Anybody else got a birthday, an engagement, an anniversary, finished their dissertation, whatever? No? Anyone had any wins this week? Who? What? Tell. Oh, wow. Well, there you go. Big clap. And what's the name of the podcast? The Culture Kitchen. I love it. Make a note of that, everybody. So, I founded this night. Risky Biscuit. Oh, we've already got our Risky Biscuit tonight. Sorry, I think, anyway. So I founded this night 2 years ago with a lovely lady called Zoe Swan, who doesn't run the night with me anymore. But it was great. We had a good time setting it up. And tonight, I want to share with you some of the things that I have learned personally from setting up and running this night. And also, I do have an announcement to make. But before I do, have you seen the cake? Yes. Isn't it amazing? So Danitza Appeline made the cake. Give them a wave. Hey. And she's going to tell you a little bit about the cake before the break. Oh, it rhymed. So here we are. It's our second birthday. And I would love to say that I have loved every minute of running ITB. But I have to speak my truth. I genuinely have loved it. I have made some amazing connections. It's been great for the community. But it's been a challenge, of course. And it's been a challenge because it's forced me to get out of old habits. And old habits die hard, don't they? Yes, they do. So, I don't know, who knows me here personally? Hands up. For those of you who do know me, you will know that I am actually a bit of a loner. And I like my own company. I'm quite introverted. And over the last 20 years, I have worked alone. I've never really worked in an establishment. People scare the living shit out of me, if I'm honest. No offense to anybody here, but people do. Crowds of people do. So I've had to push through a few comfort zones. So I've always kind of lived in my own head. I've always liked my own methodology. I've always loved being in my own imagination. I'm an only child. I've always kind of done that kind of on my own stuff. And so setting up ITB has been a challenge because it has involved getting ideas from other people. It's involved collaborating. It's involved communicating with other people. I've had to get over so much jealousy and envy. It's just unbelievable. But that's okay. It's forced me to up my game. And I haven't regretted setting up ITB one iota. I have learned so much. And I think it's really important to reflect on what we learn, especially on these milestone moments. So hopefully, I'm going to share with you a few things about what I've learned. And hopefully, they will spill over into some universal truths. And hopefully, there'll be some takeaways for you. So my main learning has been, if you challenge your perceived limitations, you will find out what you are made of. Okay? Because that's just all they are. They are just perceived limitations. But first, before I go on to talk about more learnings, I really have to credit all the speakers because I've learned most of my stuff from the speakers. And do you know, we've had over 100 speakers on this stage in 2 years. I think that is amazing. Oh, that looks nice. I've already had fish and chips today. 100 speakers. Can you believe it? There's so many people in Brighton and London who want to get on this stage, and we are booked up till January, I think it is. So we have a YouTube channel, and I urge all of you to go onto the YouTube channel because we have had some really good speakers, and you will get some massive takeaways from them. But one of my favorite speakers was Yaron Angler. Who saw Yaron Angler? Hands up. Oh, hi. He was truly amazing. His energy was off the chart. So do go and check him out. The essence of his message was, in order to know what is enough, you have to know what too much is. And he was doing his too much on stage. He was banging his drum. He was just screaming to high heaven. But his actual message was just so utterly brilliant. He's done a TED Talk as well, so do check him out. But the other speakers that I've loved have been Kate McKenzie. She's a relationship therapist. Kevin Cherry, he's a comedian and a coach. So yeah, go and check them out. And I've learned a lot from them, obviously, but I've also loved witnessing everybody's courage and bravery, because we're all sick as shit before we get up here and talk to you guys. We're all like, ugh, it's really, really nerve-wracking. But there's some magic that happens when people speak their truth. But let me get back to those perceived limitations. So what have I learned from running ITB? Well, I've learned to be less distracted. I've learned to be so kind of laser beam focused. I've learned to not prioritize my housework. Who does that? Who wakes up in the morning and is like, I've got to clean the house before I start working? That's procrastination at its best, isn't it? Well, that was me. I've learned, because I've had quite a lot to do. I've had lots of social media. God, we've got loads of people. I've just noticed all you guys at the door. We'll sort you out in a minute. Hang on. Could you go and get some chairs, some extra chairs? Thank you. Oh, that's a major distraction. Right. I've learned to be less distracted, she says. One of the things I used to do was kind of flip-flop around on social media a lot of the time and just kind of go down that rabbit hole. And it's such an addiction. But I've kind of learned not to do that just because of necessity, really. And so I've learned to be much more focused with my tasks. I've had, lots to do to keep this event running. And I've had to look outside of myself as well for inspiration, collaboration, connecting with other people. And it's definitely highlighted parts of my personality that have been a little bit closed, a little bit competitive. All those little kind of dark demony things inside of you get highlighted when you start pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And I've learned about commitment and consistency because, believe me, there have been times, this has been a monthly event, and there have been times I've really not wanted to come here. I might have been moody or grumpy or had really bad PMT or just a headache and overworked and all of that. But it's a responsibility. It's a responsibility because I've had to get bums on seats for the amazing speakers who are here giving up their time. And I've had to curate a really good show for you guys who have paid the money. So that's a responsibility. And, I don't really like responsibility that much. But it's one of those perceived limitations because you find out what you're made of. But one of the things that has really kept me going through those super challenging times has been a vision. And I want to talk a little bit about that vision because I believe in the bottom of my heart that humanity, us lot, everybody here in this room, we are going through a massive shift right now. We're going into an age where truth, openness, honesty, and these kinds of conversations that we're having are crucial to our evolution and our progress on this planet. And anything that is not authentic, not from the heart, seems to be no longer sustainable. You only have to look at our political, our economic, our education, our health systems to know that it's just not working anymore. So what's the alternative? The alternative is this openness, this honesty, this vulnerability, this thing that we have inside of us, this calling to get up and show our true colors. Because when you don't come from a heart-led, love-based place, nothing works. Your health deteriorates, your wealth deteriorates, your relationships deteriorate. So what do I mean by authentic living? Basically, I mean stop lying, stop puffing up, stop trying to be better than other people. It's this kind of braggadocio culture, you know. And my plea is to really start connecting with the inner part of you that is the same as everybody else, that part of you that knows pain, that part of you that knows suffering and that knows the struggle, but also that part of you that knows what to do to get out of that. Because we've all been in a deep, dark space before. We've all struggled and we've all got out of it, presumably, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So connect to that, inspire others. Because when we highlight the truth, what we do is we break down this kind of toxic patriarchy. We break down this fear-based living and we move towards a love-based society. So that is what this stage, this talking stage, has been about. It's enabled our speakers to turn or to speak their truth in order to turn their trauma into treasure. And I love that. Speak your truth to turn your trauma into treasure. And it enables our listeners, you guys, to know that we are all the same. We all have these struggles. We all have these trials and tribulations. And we all have the same feelings, the same anxieties. And listening to these stories, it gives us a massive dose of oxytocin. And it makes us feel like we are not alone in this. And that even if our parenting has been less than perfect, which most of us has, let's face it, we can find this kind of solace and this respite in a different kind of human family. Us lot here all together with the same struggles and the same challenges and the same limitations. So that's been my vision, really, finding our human families through vulnerable, honest communication. I call it real talk, or RuPaul calls it real talk, I think. So that vision has kind of been there my whole life, but I've kind of always been a little bit dissociated with some of my businesses that I've had, and it's been difficult to sort of find a business that has really matched my vision. But I think I've had this thing where I've just jumped in with both feet and just sort of followed whatever instinct has been ripe at the time. So my partner will vouch for this, Graham. I've had so many different business ideas, and until this one, they've all bombed. So I love this quote from Marie Forleo. It goes like this: clarity comes from engagement and not a thought. I love that. I'll say it again. Clarity comes from engagement and not a thought. So clarity comes when you take action. Too much thinking, you ain't going to get nowhere. It's called analysis paralysis, right? So this is what I didn't realize I did, but I kind of tend to just jump in with both feet. I'm quite impulsive, but I think that's a good thing because you just find out if something is going to work by trying it, basically. You don't have all of the answers before you've tried it. Sometimes you just have to jump in, roll your sleeves up, take a deep breath, hold your breath, give it a go, put it out there, take a risk, spend a bit of money, and see if it works. Look at the analytics afterwards. Is it working? Is the income to workload ratio working? If not, ditch it, learn from it, and try something else. So not all of my little projects worked, but they kind of did work in a way. I've done Brighton Pop Choir, I've done drop-in choir, I've done weekly vocal exercise group. I've done egg yoga, which was some kind of crazy invention. What else? I've done Ladies on the Line, which was some kind of crazy music promotion thing. Yeah, too many to mention, really. But ITB worked! Yay! So my invitation to you is, if you're confused about your next step, about your next move, just choose one idea that you have. And none of us have any shortage of ideas, do we? We all have like loads of ideas. We're all creative here in Brighton. Just go with your gut, choose one idea, run with it, and see if it will work. Because clarity comes from engagement, not thought. So, the clarity that I've gained from running ITB has led me to this idea of authentic living. And recently, here's my announcement. Recently, my mind, body, and soul has been crying out for change. And I'm going to be really, really honest with you. I have actually got a little bit bored, bored is the wrong word, but just sort of tired of showing up every month. And so I've decided to stop running Inspiring Talks. And I've decided to hand it over to Lisa Moore, who's there. Because, you know, when you don't have the impetus and the drive and the passion for something, when you're burnt out, the energy of a business does suffer. And not that it's suffering tonight, because obviously there's so many people here, and that's amazing. I feel truly blessed. But I've chosen Lisa Moore because she's always been a huge champion for ITB. She belongs to Toastmasters herself, so she's a great public speaker. She's a coach, and I love her passion for ITB. She's always been there. She's always bigged it up. She's always spoken very highly of it. And when I was kind of crashing a couple of months ago, I was like, Lisa, help, I'm drowning. And she was like, yeah, I'll do it for you. So tonight is kind of her official handover, if you like, and Lisa's going to be speaking at some point in the night. But before she does, I want to talk about this idea that businesses have a life of their own. Businesses do have a consciousness all of their own. I really believe that. Like any thing that you create, like a house, if you build a house, the house kind of knows what it wants, or a song, or a piece of poetry. Who's had that experience where they've been creating something and they can kind of feel what their creation wants eventually? Pardon me. It's a really weird feeling, and I could kind of feel that in my belly. So on the 21st of March, which was the last ITB, I kind of felt in my belly that Inspiring Talks wanted to leave me. It wanted to, it's like a child leaving a home. I could feel that it wanted to move on. It wanted a fresh injection of energy. And it was really sad. And I had like this kind of mini breakdown. But I knew I had to let go. I knew that I was kind of done with it. But also, I felt the push of other ideas behind me, like wanting to come forward, you know, because if you're a creative, you have this constant stream of ideas. And if they're not being realized all the time, you can really feel it in your energy field, and that's what was happening. But every ending sparks a beginning, and one thing I love about nature is that nature cannot have a void. So every void in nature has to be filled, and that is why black holes are such an anomaly to physicists. So 4 days after I decided to let go of ITB a couple of months ago, I felt so light, I felt so clear, I felt so spacious inside of me. And I got a phone call. It's really weird how the universe works. I got this phone call, which is really about to kind of up-level me a little bit, or quite a lot. But before I tell you about that phone call, I want to backtrack a little bit. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm a Rapid Transformational Therapist. And I started my training 2 years ago, about the same time that I started ITB. And I've been trying to work out what specialism I should do. So I'd had a bit of experience with anxiety myself, and I thought maybe my speciality will be anxiety, help people with anxiety. But I found that I was kind of coming up against blocks with that. And I found that the more I focused on helping people with anxiety, the more anxious I became. So I was like, that's how the mind works, isn't it? You get what you focus on. So I was like, okay, maybe not. So I kind of let go of that. And then in December, I had this sort of calling that my speciality would be more around the idea of weight loss. Because with RTT, you can help people to lose weight using mindset, basically, and get them to really understand why they are holding on to the weight as well. Because it's not just, eat too much and don't move enough. There's this idea that we hold on to weight for emotional reasons as well. So weight, shedding weight, losing weight has kind of been a challenge for me. And also it's kind of linked to heart energy as well on my mum's lineage, if you like. So it felt really, it wasn't like a great big power moment, but it was like a kind of, like a real heart moment. So I decided that's what I was going to focus on as my specialism. And I'd had a few signs as well from the universe, as you do. So I had this calling to reach out to a lady called Rachel Collins. Do you know Rachel Collins? She's done a talk here. She's a health coach and a functional medicine practitioner. So I reached out to her and I said, hey, do you want to join forces? Let's set something up. Let's set up a program where we really mentor people on what to eat, but also why. So you can do the what. She's a nutritionist. She knows the what stuff. And I can do the why. And so we set up this kind of beta test program called Slimmer You Forever, which went really, really well. And where am I on here? Yes. So that's a little aside over here. So let me recap. Let me go back. So Slimmer You Forever was kind of in full swing when I decided to let go of ITB back in March. And I'd got all this clarity, I'd got all this headspace. I was at the zoo with Graham. I was having a really lovely time. I felt so happy. And I got this phone call out of the blue from Marilyn Glenville's people. Anyone here know Marilyn Glenville? Yeah, a couple of voices. Yeah. So Marilyn Glenville is one of the top nutritionalists in the country. She is amazing. And I got a phone call from her people. She's got people. It's like really cool. Saying that we found your website. We really, really love what you do. Would you be up for doing a 90-minute presentation at Marilyn Glenville's big event in London talking about mindset and weight? And I was like, oh my God, yes. So I said yes. And I was like, how did you find me, by the way? And he was like, we just came across your website. Honestly, the amount of hustling that I do, it just goes to show what happens when you get into a flow state, when you get into a state where there's no resistance. When you get into a state that is, yes, you've taken some action, but then you let go and you clear the energy, you clear the space. The universe can see you. You're a beacon of light when you're like that. The universe goes, bang, you can have it. And then this channel opens up and what you want flows to you resistance-free. She didn't even know that I'd started Slimmer You Forever. She had no idea that that was the specialism that I decided on. So I was like, cool, that's really, really cool. But of course, no amount of up-leveling in this way is complete without a few tests. And so while I was on the phone to Marilyn Glenville's people, actually it was her husband, but she does have other people as well. While I was on the phone to them, my trusty laptop of 2011, I'd written so much music on, died in front of my eyes. The screen went all grisly, went all like gnarly, you know, that kind of, oh my God, something bad's in there. And it just died. And I was like, fuck. So obviously, you know, the Buddha part of me was like, this is really good, Sally. This just shows that it's all happening for you. You're on the right lines. You're letting go of that old part of you that was into music and the whole musician part of you. That's going now. You're moving on. You're moving on to a different life now. But of course, you know, the whole reptilian brain starts really having a go and going, oh my God, I can't afford a new laptop. I've just spent loads of money on a new bed and loads of money on a holiday, and now I've got to find the money for a new laptop. And this is how grown up I've become over the last couple of years, I even said no to my mum who offered to give me the money for the laptop. I was like, no, Mum, I trust the universe. This is all happening for a reason. It's all fine. But I was shit scared that all of this money was coming out of my bank account. And I was, ugh. But it's all good because I have a new laptop and everything is going okay. Everything is going according to plan. That's what happens when you let go, when you make space. So obviously, I'm really sad to be letting go of ITV. It's been my baby for the last 2 years, and I have held on really, really, really tightly to ITV. And I'm really humbled that it's been successful, and hopefully it will continue to be successful. Hopefully you guys will continue to buy tickets and support Lisa, but also support what this night is about. This night is really about learning. It's about inspiration. It's about connecting, because I honestly believe that this is the root of our evolution on this planet. And so much has come from ITB. So many friends have been made. You know, people have had dinner parties, people have set up their own little events, their own little offshoot events from this. So it really has been amazing. It's been a bit of a butterfly effect. So I just want to say a huge thank you to each and every one of you guys who have given it a go, who have loved it, who have sort of had this hunger for hearing these stories, for having this desire for change, because you're sick of the status quo, basically. You know there's something different out there. You know there's a different and a better way of living. So I want to leave you guys with this message. Oh, I've been talking a long time. I want to leave you with a message, and here it is. Make your visions a reality. What if you were sitting on a great idea that could change somebody's life for the better? What if you could save somebody's life with your idea? You just never know. But what if you were too scared of criticism, of failure, of rejection? Do you not think, guys, it is your responsibility to just get over that? To just step forward, to step into your power for the sake of our human family, for the sake of maybe improving somebody's life or even saving somebody's life? I always ask myself, what would have happened if all these amazing people didn't do amazing things? What would have happened if we didn't have, if Mark Zuckerberg didn't set up his social network? There's no way we would be as connected as we are. What would have happened if Vishaan Lakhiani, do you know him from Mind Valley? What would have happened if he just decided to be a computer programmer and not set up the most incredible school for spirituality on the planet, which is just now filtering out into the world at the rate of knots, and it's really affordable learning as well? What would have happened if Alexander Fleming just walked past that mouldy Petri dish and threw it in the bin? We wouldn't have penicillin, right? This is what I'm saying to you. Do not ignore your callings. Your idea could save somebody's life. And what I heard this quote the other day, I think it was Brené Brown. The only way you can stop the feeling of a calling is to answer the call. I love that. So I want to encourage all of you, step outside what comfortable is. This is so not comfortable for me, but I've learned so much from it. I've made so many beautiful, heartfelt connections, and I hope it continues to grow.